Hello, this is our group's chicken movie featuring Aidan Solomon, Eric Moon, William Zing, Nathan Wu, Kakai Del Mendo, and Hana Arajo.
So we are going to begin with an overview of the external anatomy of a chicken. Okay, starting at the ear and the earlobe. Chickens do not have an outer ear. The ear opening is hidden by feathers on the side of the head. The earlobe is the modification of skins beneath the ear opening, and there tends to be a correlation between the earlobe color and the color of the eggs. Combs and wattles differ in shape, size, and color across avian species. The sizes and colors are dependent on sex hormones. There are many different chicken combs, such as carnation, strawberry, pea, and rose, among others, and the purpose of combs and wattles are most likely ornamental. Okay, moving on to the feathers of the chickens. Feathers are composed of keratin. They are used as insulation and also to protect the skin from damage. Molting is when hens lose their feathers and egg production normally stops during this period. Molting usually starts at the head and moves through the neck, body, wings, and tail. However, there are modern strains of birds that can molt without stopping egg production. There are also lighting procedures in modern husbandry that can stop molting in laying hens.
This is Nathan, and for the brachial vein, it is a vein that is used for blood collection by vets. It is a large vein located in the medial surface of the wing. To collect the blood, all you have to do is pluck the feathers, and it will be easy blood collection. Moving on to the uropygial gland, also known as a preen gland. It is a large bilobed sebaceous gland, which means that it is an oil-producing gland. It is located dorsally at the base of the tail. It secretes oil that is distributed by the chicken through preening behavior, and it is used for waterproofing of the feathers.
Okay, so Hannah here. So now we're gonna talk about the muscles. We're gonna talk about the skeletal muscles specifically, which are what the limbs are made out of. It's responsible for the shape of the bird, and it's what gives the birds their voluntary movement. This is also the part of the carcass that we consume. For example, the thigh, breast, and leg, which are the most valuable muscles. So here we have the biceps brachii and triceps brachii, and as you can see that the biceps run ventral to the humerus. They also flex the wing. The triceps flex the shoulder and extend the forearm. They are also kind of separated by the brachial vein. Moving down to the leg, this is the outside view of the leg. So starting with the sartorius, it flexes the hip and extends the knee. The tibialis anterior flexes the tarsometatarsals forward. The semimembranosus extends the thigh. The iliotibialis, is the most superficial muscle of the hip. It is the gluteus maximus, and it flexes the hip and extends the knee, as well as lowering the leg. We also have the semitendinosus, which extends the thigh. Oh, right, and the leg is dark meat, so which means that because there's a lot of sustained activity as like walking, myoglobin builds up, which is responsible for the color. We have the inner view. So we went over the semimembranosus. So here we have the adductor longus. The adductor longus adducts and extends the thigh. Then there's the ambiens. The quadriceps femoris extends the thigh as well, and along with the sartorius. No, I lied. The sartorius is what we showed before. Anyway, gastrocnemius. That is what flexes the knee. and extends the foot. It's also kind of like in the calf, like if you relate it to humans.
Moving on to muscles that are involved in wing movement, we have the breast, which is composed of two parts. The two parts include the M superficial pectoral, also known as the pectoralis major, and the M supracoracoideus, which is also known as the pectoralis minor. The M superficial pectoral is responsible for the downward movement of the wing, while the M supracoracoideus is responsible for the upstroke of the wing, and it elevates the wing. And this is also different from the thigh because this is white meat. Another muscle involved in wing movement is the M deltoideus, and this rotates the wing in an outward direction, and it also flexes the shoulder.
It's Aiden, and I will be discussing the reproductive system. So starting with the reproductive system in a hen, we start with the ovaries and the follicles. The follicles are the egg yolk, and they form and grow on the ovaries. Follicles are usually labeled by their points of growth, starting with F1, which is usually the biggest and most developed follicle, and it goes F1, F2, F3, F4, and generally, as you go up in the F number, the follicle is smaller. Next, we have the infundibulum. The infundibulum catches the follicle. The infundibulum is a site of fertilization, and usually the egg will remain in the infundibulum for about 15 to 17 minutes. Next, we have the magnum, isthmus, and the shell gland. The magnum is where the thick albumin forms around the egg yolk, and the egg will remain in there for about 3 hours. Next, we have the isthmus, which is where the inner and outer shell membranes form, and the egg will remain here for about 75 minutes. Finally, we have the uterus or shell gland, which is where finally the outer and hard shell layer is added, and the egg will remain in here for about 20 hours. Finally, we have the cloaca and the vagina, and this is where the egg will finally be released when it is fully developed. We had a hen, so we did not see the testes in our chicken, but the testes is where sperm production occurs, and the sperm travels down the vas deferens to enter the cloaca, and which is where insemination occurs in the female chicken through a colloquial kiss.
Okay, for the digestive system. I am Eric, by the way. The first step of the digestive system starts in the oral cavity. The beak is comprised of two skeletons, the mandible and the incisive. Unlike most animals, the chicken does not have a lip or teeth. They have sharp beaks that help them break down food so it can enter down to the epiglottis. Oh, and their tongue is triangular and narrow, and they have touch receptors that can distinguish food by feeling through them. So, the esophagus. Esophagus is a tube that runs dorsal to the trachea. Trachea is the tube that is above the red arrow, and it carries the food particle down to the crop. And speaking of crops, crops are a temporary storage system for the food. The picture is a bit blurry because it was archived from a video, but the yellow part is the crop, and food particles that were not eliminated after the bird was killed is leaking out because it had food storage between inside it before when the animal was killed. The next part is the small intestine. Actually, the proventriculus should come first, but that was not found in our chicken dissection pictures because it's a very small structure. So the first off, the gizzard, not actually a small intestine, but located near that. The gizzard has a thick muscular wall that has a rough inner surface that grinds the food with its strong muscle contraction. They will have small stones inside them to help smash food even further as well. So, the actual small intestine starts at the duodenum, which is this U-shaped tubule called the duodenal loop, and encased by the U shape is the pancreas. The pancreas secretes enzymes that help with the digestion and absorption of nutrients, and due to the proximity of the pancreas to the duodenal loop, it can allow the facilitation of the movement of enzymes without leaking them into the external cells. Also, the bile duct enter the duodenum near the pancreas to aid in lipid digestion as well. Outside of the duodenum, in the third picture, there is the rest of the small intestine, the jejunum and the ileum, and the mesentery binds the small intestine to the wall of the animal's body. The next up is the ceca. The ceca contains bacteria that is integral in plant cellular digestion. Also, it helps with the absorption of water. And the next one is the large intestine. It does not do much in terms of digestion compared to the other structures. The main function of the large intestine is just to absorb more water. And the remaining waste products of the digestive system, the fecal matter, is collected in the cloaca del whole. I mean, and it is excreted through the vent. So let's talk about the organs that I missed in the pictures that we took during the lab period. First up is the proventriculus. It's right above the gizzard and right below the crop. This is a glandular stomach that secretes HCl, a very strong acid that activates pepsinogen into pepsin, an enzyme that breaks down proteins into polypeptides. Another one I missed was the liver. The liver is where bile is created, and that created bile is stored in the gallbladder, which is secreted into the duodenum to help with lipid digestion. And yep, that's about it.
Moving on to the respiratory system. The main function of the respiratory system is to bring oxygen in and carbon dioxide out, but in chickens it is also involved in the cooling of body temperature. The respiratory system is made up of 2 lungs with 9 air sacs, 2 cervical sacs, 1 interclavicular air sac, 2 anterior thoracic air sacs, 2 posterior thoracic air sacs, and 2 abdominal air sacs. How it works is the first inhale brings air through the trachea and bronchi to the posterior air sacs. The first exhale brings the air from the posterior air sacs to the lungs. The second inhale brings the air from the lungs to the anterior air sacs, and the second exhale brings the air from the anterior air sacs to the trachea and out the body. So here you can see the trachea and lungs. The lungs are in the picture on the right, where the arrow is pointing. The dissection wasn't great, but the lungs are there.
Okay, so this right here is a trachea, and we can tell because it's like ribbed. It's a lot harder than the esophagus.
Moving on, that is the trachea and where the syrinx would be if we cut it better. And also there's the glottis, which is the opening to the trachea.
All right, the urogenital system. The function of it is to remove nitrogenous waste and other waste of metabolism and maintain osmotic fluid balance in the body. Birds excrete waste as urates, and they don't have bladders. So here's the kidney, and ureters should be here, but there's no picture of it. So the kidney is a 3-lobe structure found in the bony cavities formed by the ileum and sacrum of the pelvis. And then the circulatory system basically is just the heart. The heart rate for chickens are about 200 to 300 beats per minute. In some small birds, it can even be more than 1,000. They have a 4-chambered heart enclosed by a pericardium sac. This is the heart we had
with the left atrium, left ventricle, right atrium, right ventricle. The sac is not shown here because we kind of removed it, and there's an aorta up there along with other features, and that's about it. And here are our image citations.